Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tabletop Odyssey, where we do another Malifaux crew unpack for 4th edition. Today, being Mother's Day here in the UK, we've decided to go with the best mother of it all, Zoraida, and the Swampfiend keyword. Hopefully this is something that is of interest to you. If you have liked this series so far, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more of these videos, and then you don't have to search around for them when they show up. Thank you very much, and let's dive in. So exactly is Zoraida? Why play Swampfiend? Well, Zoraida, you see, desperation drives people to see the Witch of the Swamp, Zoraida. But she does not want to be seen, then they are doomed to sink into the bog. Should they arrive, however, they might be stunned to discover that she knows exactly who they are and why they came. A bargain is struck over a game of cards. You win, she gives you the information you seek. You lose, well, you might lose something you don't expect. Now, Zoraida herself, she was not always this crone. She was a human once, traversing the in-between and arriving in Malifaux before any other human. Now it is she who foresaw the return of the tyrants, those great evil near gods that once walked the world. Every event in Malifaux to date, from the opening of the breach and the designs of humanity, have been a result of her strand of fate, and in an attempt to stop the rise of the tyrants. But of course, there are some out there who do not want to bend to the will of the Swamp Hag. Will fate turn to her hand? Now, if that wasn't enough, let's give you some reasons to play Swampfiend. It is a rather spooky keyword, and of course, if you like mind control, this might be the playstyle for you. She is, of course, as we all know, clearly the real main character of Malifaux, the one who foresaw the greater evil returning and is best prepared to stop it. Maybe you are like Cassandra. No one believes you, even though you're always right in your predictions. Or maybe you're one of those people who are like from Florida or some other swampy landscape who just really likes being that bog person. The person who has maybe like pet alligators or leeches or some other creepy crawlies out there. Maybe you've been influenced a little bit too much by Shrek growing up and you've just decided that you are one with the bog at this point. The swamp is you. Or maybe you're one of those people who just really likes witchcraft, like a lot, you know, like makes it your whole aesthetic, your whole livelihood. You know, you're always dressing up as a witch, even if it's not Halloween. There are no better ways to play Swampfiend after all, right? So let's bring us to the first title, which is the Crawling Hex for the Bog Witch. She is going to be having your models reading cards, which means that after you or an enemy is having an attack action, either kind, as long as they cheat, you can look at the top card of your fate deck and choose to discard it, which is really nice at filtering all of those crappy cards. Your unique models as well have that nice last ditch resort, so if they are on 2 or less health, you might consider draining a soul stone if they miss an attack against you to deal 2 damage to them. Just nice to finish them off. So they don't have to be on 2 or less health, but you might as well use it then, otherwise you have better uses for your stones. You have a couple of things that might be worth considering. You do hand out poison quite a bit, as well as stunned, both great conditions. And you have the bog markers, which enemies within an inch of this 50mm marker, they have to discard a card or gain stunned. You have a lot of effects within this keyword that are going to be reducing their hand size or their stones, and then handing out stunned to reduce their AP. Fantastic token there. Of course, it removes their triggers and it counts those signatures as blank. So operating without a signature can be really frustrating for some models. You then also can hand out Craven both to enemies to disable their interacts, but also to yourself at the cost of some great abilities. There are some uses where you might want it, like denying assassinates, and things like your leeches, as we'll see later, do like having conditions. Otherwise, a very interesting condition to hand out to yourself. You also have Bolstered, which is nice to just top you off a little bit, but it's just another condition. We've then got the Bog Witch herself, who is a long-range control master. She is operating very largely through the Eyes in the Night ability, allowing her to draw range and line of sight for attacks from allies within 10. So she can node out, and she's got a range of 10 on her attack, so that's a 20-inch threat range there. The most important one of these is the Fate Weaver's Pull. Stat 6 against willpower. It can target allies, well, friendly models, not just allies, but it cannot target the same model more than once an activation. The target will move 2 inches and then complete an action chosen and controlled by this model, which is going to be anything of your choice. You can use it to charge and attack an enemy. You can use it to interact, to move away from you, or to move your allies up the field. Sometimes it can just be good turn 1 to unpack your models, even if it's the cost of masked AP. You don't really care too much because you can be wherever you need to be and be pretty safe noding through allies. Bog Strider for the cost of 7, once a turn throws you 12 inches up the board, but does hand out Craven, but has a very interesting effect of creating a effigy by removing a marker on the trigger. This could be your totem, which we'll get to in a moment, or it could be some of the effigies from each of the factions, which is really fun. You also have the Bog Bound ability, so allies within 6 can just take a damage for you. That's really nice to have, especially if you just summoned an effigy nearby. They can just take stuff for you if there's no one else. And then we've got Strands of Fate, which really add to this control. Start phase, they have to your enemy discards a card, or you can see their hand. Obviously, there's nothing to be said about how powerful seeing your opponent's hand can be. You can really just control about when to cheat at that point, because you know exactly what they have. But if they choose to discard a card instead, well, you love that, because that means there's more chance of handing out stunned on them, or some of the various execute effects within crew. Which brings us to Voodoo, which is the main effect of this title, I would say. The Witch's Needle can hand it out and do a damage with a really nice trigger to either hand out stunned, either add 2 damage or discard a card, or have that stone effect to just obey them on top of things. Now, the Voodoo upgrade doesn't really do much in itself. All it does is just have a cost to remove, but a lot of things trigger off of it. And the nice Whispered Curses trigger on Fate Weaver's Pull to deal a damage to your totem, ignoring line of sight, is really good. And we'll see why, because you want to damage your totem. The summons that you can get, the other effigies that aren't your totem though, are of course all of the Fates here: Intrepid, Shadow, Hodgepodge, Lucky, Carrion, Brutal, Mysterious, and Arcane. The best ones here, I would say, in this instance, is Hodgepodge for the healing, Carrion for the token removal, and then probably either Mysterious or Lucky for the hastened or impact and the actual token itself. Arcane is not to be remiss though. Adaptable can be quite useful. Shadow Fate, probably the least of them. Now, I will remind you here that unlike in other uses of these effigies, they cannot really use the Lucky Fate 2-stone trigger on their attack to become an emissary, because they will have a summon token. Something to consider. Now, the one that you are probably going to be summoning the most, or re-summoning if it dies, is the Voodoo Doll, who is weak for a reason. 4 on both of its defenses and 9 wounds. It basically likes to use the Voodoo upgrade here. Almost everything about this is around the Voodoo upgrade, which is why I'm showing it here. So first of all, they have the Abused Effigy. ability, which means that allies can of course attack you with attack actions. And then you're combining that with the Wanga Mojo Curse, so after a model is dealt damage, deal a damage to all enemy models with the Voodoo upgrade, ignoring line of sight. There we go. The Voodoo upgrade itself, of course, when a model with it activates, it can either discard a card or two cards or a stone to discard the upgrade. That might be too steep and annoying, leaves them at risk of getting stunned, of course. But if they don't, then every time the Voodoo Doll takes damage, they will as well. In this instance, you want low damage attacks to be hitting the Voodoo Doll, because then it will only deal 1 damage to it, and you can do it 9 times rather than less. If you've got, for example, a Hodgepodge effigy around, he can of course just attack you, deal like 1 damage, and then heal you back up afterwards, which means you're less likely to need to have to resummon this model later. But you can be quite aggressive with this model because there isn't really any need to keep it around. You can resummon it, and it taking damage hurts the enemy too. Now the Voodoo Doll has the Hex of Misfortune, of course, so it can apply the Voodoo upgrade itself. It doesn't just have to be Zoraida. And it has that linked fate to hand out stunned or poison, which is really, really tasty. Be aware though, if the Voodoo Doll dies, everyone with a Voodoo upgrade discards it, so this is why you kind of don't want them to die. It's easier to have them take damage and heal it off than anything else. They do have the one-arm scissor attack, which is rather pathetic, but it does have some great triggers. You can hand out stunned. If they have stunned, you can discard and draw a card. You can hand out Craven, which of course is really nasty, and you can deal damage to yourself to attack again, which obviously is going to deal more damage to Voodoo. You then have the Sympathetic Tether action. Once per activation, you can basically copy an action on someone's card who has Voodoo. That's kind of nice. Obviously, there's a lot of options, depends who you've attached it to. But considering this guy is significant, if you attach it on someone who's got like a nice leap or something, or onwards, being able to kind of grab that could be fun. Which brings us to the other title here, who is a bit more aggressive. We've got Marshborn Malice for the Swamp Hag title, and she really likes stunned. Penetrating Stench gives all Swampfiend models the ability to, if an enemy is engaged with them and they activate, they have to discard a card, stone, or gain stun. So obviously all the ways that you're going to be discarding their cards is really going to burn through their cards and stones really quickly, and then more stunned means less AP for them. And obviously less triggers, which really shut down a lot of masters, you'd be quite surprised. You've then got the unique ability, unique Swampfiend ability, tactical action for stone, Muckborn. Heal 2 and hands up bolstered. It's kind of terrible. You'll almost never use this unless you really need the health. It's fine. Bolstered. Yeah. I don't think it's really worth a stone, but that's just me. You are obviously wanting to get a lot of your bog markers into position here. Then we've also got the Bog Spirit token, which is new to this keyword, well, this title rather. She hands it out herself, and if the model is killed with that token, you get to summon a Will-O-Wisp, which is really nice and tasty reward for your efforts. Something to consider there. Onto the Swamp Hag herself. She's really nice defensively here. She doesn't need to hide, she's going to be a little bit more further up the field. Defenses of 6 in both instances, and if they're stunned, they can't cheat. 14 wounds, it's not bad. She can be at more risk, but you do have that healing available. She does have Witch's Brew as a signature to heal an ally 2 and hand out bolstered, just like the crew card action, but it doesn't cost a stone. And of course, she can target herself if need be, with a nice trigger to either move her or the target 3 inches, which is great. Handing out bolstered can be nice and helpful, especially for those with slightly annoyingly low stats, but for those with high stats it just makes them even tankier. You then have two of the best abilities on her card, which are Eyes in the Woods and Moth Witch. So first of all, Eyes in the Woods allows you on the start phase of turn 1 to throw 3 models, 3 allies up the field, anywhere on your table half, but gives them Craven. So you're not going to be attacking, but you can be using it to get right in your opponent's face, get into positions where you might want to score later on, but also to just murder them, clean house, and level the playing field early. You then combine this with Moth Witch, so once a turn, she declares a non-charge action, so really it's a move or an interact. You might use it for a slam occasionally on the matchup, but a walk or interact. You can drain a stone to get another ally to do it as well. You will be using most of your stones on this ability, if I'm being honest. Getting someone else to just have a free walk or a free interaction means you need to spend less AP elsewhere. She does have a little bit of helpful movement as well off the path, unfortunately, once per activation. Ally only, she can discard 2 cards, replace them, and then move the target basically either 2 or 4 inches, with a chance to either drop a scheme, interact, or walk off of the back of it with her triggers, which are all really nice, getting people into position to score points, although obviously she kind of just prefers the murder game. She then has the fantastic action here of Bumps and Boils, a 3 damage magic attack that hands out stunned on a raise, and if they already have stunned, you can look at either yours or your opponent's fate deck and rearrange the top 2 cards. Really nice at setting up future actions. Her triggers, however, are what makes this attack super special. You've got Moth Swarm to do a nice aura to hand out stunned, really good. Poison Fate allows you to turn this into a 5 damage attack if they don't discard a card, and if they do, obviously leaves them at risk of other effects. 5 damage on your magic attack means you can hand out 15 damage a turn if you really want to and they don't discard. You also can hand out Craven, which is obviously super nasty to put on your opponents, and the Bog Spirit, which we've discussed already, summoning your Will-O-Wisps. She's also got a really cool totem in the Mirewing, previously called Lucy for some reason. Now, Lucy the Mirewing, she's just fast. She's a good schemer. A little bit fragile, but she's got Butterfly Jump and Flight with Silverwind, so she can move up to her speed as a tactical signature, and then enemy models gain poison if she moves through them. She's not really going to be getting near models too much, but unresisted poison is tasty. She's really just going to be moving around the field and interacting, because a lot of your other models are going to be having Craven, at least in the early stages of the game. She's got a rather erratic magic attack that hands out poison on a raise, and can also hand out stunned. It's okay, that's Moth Dust, but most importantly is Up We Go, which on the likes of Informants are really good because it allows you to just displace enemies by picking them up and moving them 3 inches away. This is really good to get them off points or move them away from bombs or away from buttons that need pushing. Really good ability, attack action there. Probably one of the best in the game. Like, as a generic attack action, it's really good. We've then got the big boy himself as a henchman, is Bad Juju. Now, this guy is a tank and a beater all in one. He's not too slow either, but let's look into him. So 13 wounds, only 5 defenses, but you can get bolstered to make them 6. He's got Bayou Cursed, so he can remove bulk markers or stun tokens to heal up to 3. Demise Eternal, so if he dies, discard a card, heal 4. So as we get into here, that 13 wounds, he's really tanky. He's also got a nice little bit of helping allies here. He's got Shifting Earth, so when he activates, you can move an ally 3 inches. Place them 3 inches. You can also hand out stunned or poison with your signature action, which is nice. It's nice. And then you've got Mud Bomb, a nice little ranged attack that has a stone trigger to heal allies within 3 inches of the target too, which is really good. And that on your heals trigger as well to just jump right into their face and get smashing with those uprooted fists. 3 damage attack. On a rage, you make a bog as well, so they got that risk of being stunned on their activation. And if they're already stunned, you can discard and draw a card, which is nice. That little barricade trigger as well gives you that bolstered, so you're just going to stick around a bit more, boost your defenses, get right in the way. Another choice for a beta is McTavish. He's a little bit more mobile. He doesn't really like being in the brawl as much, but he's more of a range threat. This man focuses on his demise here, so if he dies once per turn, you can discard a card to heal to it and make a remains marker. Now, you really like remains markers because Swamp Screen makes them concealing. And concealment obviously puts a negative to hit you from range. He can put down remains markers in quite a few ways, like for example with his Gator Scramble ability at the cost of a 4, you target a marker in line of sight and you move 2 inches towards it, and then you can place that ram trigger Trail of Leavings down to give you that concealing aura. You've got the trigger as well here that hands out unresisted stunned off of that, which is just honestly amazing. So if you've already got a marker down, move towards it, hand out stun to enemies. Oof, unresisted, very tasty. And also the quick shot trigger, which allows you to declare his range attack even if engaged, which means that he is more of your 3 AP attack beta, as Juju's more of a tank in this instance. He is also a little bit mobile with it on the move, so when he activates, he can just move 3, ignoring other models, which is really good. It just gets him upfield a little bit quicker. And into range of his long carbine, a 3 damage gun that drops remains near the target, in base contact with you, which of course builds you a swamp screen. It also has the chance to discard a card from the enemy, which of course is really good here. If you do happen to get into melee, however, you also have a 3 damage melee with a stone trigger to execute and summon a Bayou Gator. Even if you don't get the execute effect off in the summon, you are still draining their stones and their cards, both of which are great at then inflicting stunned later on. So honestly, I do really like McTavish here. We've then got the model which I think is Bad Juju's younger brother, but as a versatile, and this man is really good as a tank, nice little protective piece. He has got 6 defense and a warning growl to prevent raises, with tenacity to heal on 11 wounds, really nice. He has the ability as well to jump to friendly models that heal within 6, which is nice and tasty, especially if you've got healers around. In the first title, of course, if you've got that hodgepodge FSG healing, that's great. Also Bad Juju healing as well. You've then got Planted Roots, so if you don't want to move, they have to pay a stone to kick you off a point, which means you are great at things like Informants. You're going to be staying exactly where you want to be, and they can't kick you off to target someone else to try and get those raises through either. You've also got 2 good attack actions. First of all, just a nice solid axe, does 3 damage, with a chance to move them and deal splash damage or hand out slow, really tasty. And the signature action to remove tokens, which can affect friendly models as well, move them upfield, and then with that lovely trigger to get you an extra 5-inch movement and splash out some damage as well. Sometimes at the start for the unpack for this model, you might just want to melee attack a friendly model, push them up 2 inches, and then rampage trigger to get extra like free move almost. It might be worth considering something like that. Very solid model, something to consider. We've then got the ads, who, not gonna lie, is something I personally probably wouldn't hire. They are okay. They're 9 wounds, not great defenses, 6 speed. They do have a place on a 40 mil base, which is alright, but it's not quite... It's not quite a leap. It does have unresisted stun from it though, which is really cool. This guy does have flight as well, which is nice, so terrain isn't that big of a problem with you. He is a little bit of a schemer or a scheme hunter. Shimmering Lights targets stunned models, gives you a positive, with a nice little 2 damage attack that hands out poison with Venomous Strike. The Barricade trigger is probably necessary if you are going to be getting into melee, just to mean that you have 6s in defense. Probably the best action on this card is Lure to a Bog, moving a target towards a piece of terrain, and that could be a bog marker, and then dealing damage if there's no models within 2 inches of it. Really tasty. There are better versions of this, which is probably why I won't hire in ads, which we'll get to when we get to the Will-O-Wisps. Next up, we've got the Grootslang. Grootslang is essentially your hyper-mobile murdery model, because you definitely needed yet another murder model. So this guy works by start phase of turn 1, he throws out 2 bog markers, really nice, you don't have to put them out manually. And then he has that create layer action as well if you need to make any more. In addition to this, he has the layer to layer signature, so you can target a bog marker ignoring line of sight within 12 inches, and then you place to it and gain Craven. Unfortunately, the bog does disappear as a result of this, and Craven means you can't interact, but you can basically jump right up the field and murder someone as quick as possible. Really nice there. It also does mean that the Grootslang doesn't really need to be one of your second title's models to send up to the table half, because he can join them fairly quickly. Riddled with Tunnels, however, is really good as well, because it means another ally activating with 2 of them may also just drain a Soul Stone and use its signature to jump to your bog. So you put down 2 bogs straight away, you can have an ally go first, drain that Soul Stone, jump to 1 bog, delete it, and then you on your turn, you jump to the other and delete it. And then you've got an extra 2 models right up in their face. You do have a magic attack to hand out stunned and 2 damage with a little pull on it. It's okay, you probably won't use it as much as your stat 6 3 damage melee attack that gains a positive if there's no enemy models within 2 inches. So isolating models is a really big theme of this crew. Isolating them, pulling them away, pulling them to swamps, to your bogs, and then drowning them. Really nice triggers here to hand out poison and heal yourself, as well as placing yourself within a mark within 6 is really good, so you can just hit and run if need be. Come swipe, slink away back to a mark 6 inches away, and if you don't have Craven, maybe you can interact or something. Really tasty. Our final unique here is the Leech King, a 9-cost model with 6 willpower, 12 wounds, and a lot of healing. He has regenerations. When he activates, he's going to heal 1. If he dies, he's going to make a leech. And his main attack is Blood Magic, which has a trigger to heal damage. Heal equal to the amount of damage suffered. Now, that's quite important, because if the target has half or less than its maximum health, it's going to deal +1 damage, so you could be healing 3 or more. Well, it's going to be 3 as a magic attack, which is really tasty for keeping this man alive. However, it's also got 2 other fantastic triggers. Forgetful, making them discard a card, always tasty. And coordinated attack, which if he's near something like bad Juju or Stumpy maybe, or the Grootslang, just gaining them as an extra attack on top of things is going to really help you out. And if they weren't already at half or maximum health or less, they will be afterwards probably, right? Unless they're like a master of 14 wounds. He has a couple of other actions as well. We've got the Bloodletting signature, which is a nice little appetizer, does 1 damage, can target allies, and then it splashes damage out in 3 inches. And it does a little bit more damage if they're stunned or hands out stunned. Not too bad. The tactical action, however, is probably a good use of stones within this keyword. It allows you to summon a giant leech, which are probably one of the best summons for this crew. Okay. The giant leeches themselves, they will die. They only have 4 health and stealth to protect them. They're probably not worth hiring at 4 cost, but I can see why you might want to at times. Especially if you're choosing it as one of your targets to send up to your halfway line in Craven. I get that. Because when this guy has tokens that aren't summon or slay, he gains +1 size up to a maximum of 2. Which means you can be size 4, and it really fuels something. You also have the latch on ability to lower the defense of your opponent, which all leads up to using the body slam attack. Stat 4, which is kind of sad, but a positive if they're at a lower elevation, and it does damage equal to your size, which could be 4 damage, between 2 and 4 damage, and then you place in base contact with them, which is nice, and then have that extra -1 for being in base contact. It's essentially skill 5 if you're already in base contact though, so you do have that, like, do you want the positive or the extra +1 stat. You also have Bloodsuck, stat 4, 1 damage, heals 1, and can maybe hand out stunned. Yeah, probably not worth your time. And then you've got the where there's 1, there's more tactical action for the cost of an 11 or 10 if the target is at half or less. You can summon another giant leech, which is obviously great. You could have one like latching onto the enemy, and then this guy body slams on it, just to really get it going. They're just like nice summons that have like they spike in attack. They actually surprisingly benefit from having Craven, which is weird. So yeah, something to consider. Our other minions, consider the Will of the Wisp. It is super cheap, which means it's definitely worth hiring. It's basically the 4 cost ads. It does pretty much everything that the ads can do, but slightly worse. It attacks 1 damage but hands out poison and maybe stunned. It's got flight and unnatural speed, but only on 30 mil base. So it's kind of fast, but not quite good enough to be that top tier like Scheme Runner. You don't really have that move, walk, scheme. You know, yeah, that's or the scheme or walk scheme walk is not really happening here. But you're still quicker than most models. Your attack, obviously, if they're stunned, is going to get a positive, which is nice to have. And you've got lured into a bog still, so for 3 costs less than the ads, you can still use this to drag people towards your bogs. And if there wasn't a bog already, you can make a bog with a ram trigger, which is really nice. And then, of course, you can bloody transformation. So if a model happens to die within 3 inches of you, you pay that soul stone, you become an ads, and then you've got that unresisted stun on your unnatural speed if you want it, which is really nice. That's why I probably wouldn't hire the ads. I feel like it's almost better to hire a Will-O-Wisp and then upgrade into it, especially because these guys are still really good nodes. You've then got the Wildgeists, who are speedy in terms of speed 7 and unimpeded, but they don't have that extra move. They're also a little bit more tanky, 8 wounds, 5/5 defense and armor, can be 6s with bolstered. They are cost 6. Sadly, they don't really quite have the movement that you want. They're not really good enough for anything, in my opinion. Their signature hands out stun and poison and can make bogs, all of which are nice to have, but getting up the field is really difficult for you, outside of spending your speed 7 walk. You're really just inefficient with your actions. You've also got Tangling Roots, increasing your range if you're in severe terrain, so in a bog you get a 4-inch melee, 2 damage, and the Heave trigger is good to just move people off of points, I guess. So maybe an Informant you might consider this, but outside of that, probably go with the cheaper minions. Which brings us on to the cheapest minion you can get. It's the Bayou Gator. These guys have stealth to make up for the fact that you've only got 5 and 4 in their defenses and 3 wounds. These guys are going to die. Basically, you're going to hire this because it's cheap, it's a good node, and it can sit on like a back informant's marker all game and kind of just hide. Especially with stealth, meaning they can't even target it if they're more than 6 inches away. It's a nice protection to have. It can't just be shot off the board. And if they happen to get close, you know, you can maybe somehow get an execute trigger. If they don't have any cards or stones, it can be quite funny. And if they do, well, that's one less card or stone and more likely for them to get stunned, which is obviously just going to help you. These guys are nice, cheap and cheerful. There will be occasions where you probably want one of these. You maybe don't want more than one necessarily, but yeah, they're definitely not bad. Which brings us on to our versatiles. Now, I've gone with the whole Spawn Mother stuff right here. They used to be Swampfiend. It feels right to put them here. They're more of a thematic choice than necessarily something that's great to have. I don't know where else I'd use them. But I think there's a lot easier chance for you to get enemy markers down for her to eat because of the obeys that you have. So that's why I'm choosing to put her here. She's got 11 wounds, can cannibalize a Gups or a Silurid to heal 4 when she activates. When she dies, she makes Gups. And if a Gups or Silurid dies within range, you can drain a stone to deal 2 damage, much like our first title's crew card. So there is some protection to her. She is not necessarily the fastest in her own instance, but she can still be fast. So, first of all, Lure to the Brood pulls an enemy towards a friendly model, and then damage is dealt to them depending on who's engaged with them. This can be quite good at just getting enemy models into range of your tanks who don't want to move off of certain places, or pulling them towards a bog marker or model so that they can get stunned. Hatch eggs is kind of like the main theme of this. You're going to want to use the stone, if you have it, to summon extra Gups. It removes an enemy marker. So it removes an enemy marker and summons a Gups, or 2 if you've got the extra large clutch. And then a mask trigger, if you didn't want that, can place you in base contact with the marker, with the summoner model. So that's kind of like an 8-inch place it could be up to, which means that they can be deceptively mobile. There are also other ways to move them around as well. They also have an attack that has 2 damage against willpower. There's not many things that target willpower, so if you're looking at a crew with high defense but low willpower, this might be an interesting choice. She has crit strike to make it damage 3 and raises deal plus 2 damage, so she can do a lot. She can also hand out adversary, which of course makes things easier to kill, and she can summon a Gups off the attack as well. Now, the Gups themselves, obviously you can't hire these, but they are just nice and annoying little minions. Now, if it weren't for the fact that they have to be summoned, they could be interacting, but they can't. But they do have stealth and 3 wounds, so they're basically a Bayou Gator that with a little bit extra to them. Their skill 3 attack has a chance to do extra damage if there are other friendlies with them, so you're never using that because its main action is really getting into enemies' faces and playing Native Cry to try and get some adversary off, with a chance to allow the Spawn Mother to move its speed towards them. Yeah, that's what it means about getting those extra speed on your Spawn Mother, because it means the Spawn Mother can really just spend her time as a schemer if she needs to. It also has adulthood, so if it removes an enemy remains marker within an inch, at the end of its activation, it just becomes a Silurid, which is kind of cool. Which brings us to the Silurid, which is an actual decision here. Not just thematic, but also these guys are fantastic schemers, so even if you don't want to have them evolve from a Gups, it might be worth considering hiring these as a versatile anyway. They are speed 6 with butterfly jump and evading leap, so despite the fact it won't be able to attack, it can just do a nice 6-inch leap, which is going to allow it to do that scheme, leap, scheme, or walk, scheme, leap, that it otherwise wouldn't be able to do as other models in the crew, which means you can push buttons more effectively, which is really nice. You've also got a way to hand out adversary and do a little bit of damage if you need to, but really this is just a nice and tidy scheming model that can like kind of punish people a little bit more if you've got that spawn mother around. So, let's bring us to the Tactica. First of all, we've got Bog Witch. So this is our long-range voodoo upgrade using Master, and she has exceptional range. 20-inch range, essentially. She can summon effigies to protect, so she can either stay in cover, or alongside someone like Stumpy, who's just going to protect her, and she doesn't really have to fear death all game. She's also got quite a lot of cheap minions, which she can use as nodes to just get into a nice position. And then she can use her threads from to get people to be where they want to interact, to attack, whatever. She's also able to use Fate Weaver's Pull to score well, whatever it is that you need that for. You might have to rely on Silurid, however, if you do need to like plant bombs or push buttons, because your crew isn't necessarily quite as fast as you would like it to be. It doesn't really have that interact potential otherwise, so something to consider there. Leeches, however, can be really nice if you stack conditions on them, so if you're getting things like bolstered on them, you get Craven on them, you know, they're going to be a nice size, and then you can use someone like the King or Bad Juju to finish them off. Nice and little tasty, and of course you get that activation control with the more models that you have, which is really cool. You've then got the ability to just hand out poison to quite a lot of things, and then just combine that with the use of handing out Voodoo, chip damaging enemies, you know, if you need to get an effigy to just attack your Voodoo Doll. Handing out lots of chip damage over time really just weakens them, and then they're in that position where they maybe don't want to attack you in fear they miss, you pay that stone and you finish them off, right? You've also got Fate Weaver's Pull to just like keep them from scoring, throw them into bogs, keep them stunned, lower their AP where necessary, right? Obey is obviously fantastic. The Swampfiend, on the other hand, she does not have the patience of her title twin. She is more aggressive, she wants to be in the thick of things a little bit more, and she really loves stunned. That is the name of the game. She wants to get as many bogs down as possible, keep her models close to them, keep their models close to it. It puts a lot of hand pressure on your opponent, a lot of stone pressure, and that means more stunned, more risks of executes, and then less resources that they can use to get their best abilities off or hurt you with it. Obviously, if someone's stunned, they not just don't have that extra signature action, but they don't have the triggers either, a lot of which can be used for that extra movement, that extra damage, or that extra healing that you just want to limit, right? A lot of the like force movement out there is on triggers, so that just really helps even more on things like Informants. It limits their action economy. Now, you do have a lot of ways to put Craven on your own models, and they are not able to score, but they can smash. They can get right up in their face, right to the center line, really quickly. So you can consider an Alpha Strike with her. Throw a Bog Spirit down on things as well. It gives you summons for killing things. I suggest like ganging up on something and just finishing it off as quick as possible. It may provide them with more stones, but at the same time, there's less models, less AP. And if it gets to the point where you're in a situation where you don't think you can kill something, just make sure that you're engaging something, because then they have to like discard or they're getting stunned. Now, if they don't have a hand or any stones, remember that McTavish and the Gators, they've got those executes. They can further pile that pressure, but also put them at a risk of being executed entirely, which is not great for them. But something to really consider is where you're putting bogs. You don't necessarily want them on points with informants, but you do want them in good positions for people like McTavish to move through, or Grootslang to move to, or to get people to tunnel to, or you want them in places where people can be lured into to get stunned and pull them away from bombs or informants, right? Mirewing is also really good at this. They can just pick up and move people away with up we go. So that's just that denial game that you're playing a little bit more with this crew. You're maybe a bit more proactive with Bog Witch, but Swamp Hag's a little bit more aggressive and that denial game. She's also really efficient with Moth Witch, so you can just pay that stone for that extra movement or interact for people, which means they can focus on using their AP on attacking things or interacting where necessary. Something to consider. Now, with that being said, and it's all over now, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it's been somewhat useful at diving into this keyword, explaining a little bit about what they are used for and where you might want to use them. And happy Mother's Day to anyone who is celebrating that today. Thank you very much for watching. If you've liked it, give it a like. If you're one of the many people who are watching this video and haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It means these videos will be popping right in your subscription feed rather than having to look for them. So really appreciate that too. I will be heading to the Explorer Society for our next video, so please let me know who you would like to see next. Thank you very much. This has been Tabletop Odyssey.